hired a boat and I came down here, and it was a very misty day. And I walked up here and I looked around and I thought, this is beautiful. Hazel bushes, I can get hazelnuts. A red squirrel ran across there, over the little ruined wall there. I said, I'll come here and get the feel of it. And I had my backpack and a few provisions. And I thought, well, I'll stay overnight. And I said, I must have this place. Dear God, I must have this place. I just wanted to feel, does this place want me? And I sort of said to myself, I'm going to love you and look after you. If you love and look after me, kind of thing, you know? Well, I was 38 years old, and I suppose I'd reached some kind of midlife crisis that most men go through. But I wasn't married and didn't have children. And I was tired of being an armchair adventurer. I was a sort of country boy, and just to get to London and Fleet Street as a journalist was a great thing for me. And I got my own column, and then I went freelance. And I lived in 5 capital cities. I actually lived in Paris and Rome and Spain for a while. And chasing over to North America, mixing with celebrities, writing about their lives. And it all went sour on me. So I sold my apartment, said goodbye to my ex-girlfriend by that time. And I then went up to Scotland. The owner of the island showed me a cottage. He said, I think there's an old ruin at the other end of the island, at the Atlantic end. I said, oh, that sounds good. We panted up the hill here, and I took a look at a bit of a ruin, almost a complete ruin, really. Everything was hanging out. I thought, this is going to be trouble. I'm not going to win paradise here without a bit of effort. And but I turned around and looked at this incredible view. He saw my rapture and he said, there's nothing between you and Canada here. You're not a smuggler, are you? I said, no, I'm not a smuggler. I thought that did it. I said, what's this Canada? You know, it's so beautiful, just like that, but different again. I said, what's this place called? He said, Ballindona. I said, Ballindona? Like Belladonna, beautiful woman. I thought, well, I don't have the beautiful woman, but this is paradise enough. It just hit me like the pang of first love to see this place. Speckled buzzard flew overhead, quarter moon. It was totally unbelievable. And I spent 3.5 years here, and it was probably one of the finest periods of my whole life, because I think I was reborn for the second time. Oh, that's Buzz's perch. He was a young sparrowhawk that I trained to hunt and to fly. I let him go. It's very strange because I'd been here 2 years and I was still trying to make my living running down south and doing the old journalism and everything. And a friend in the village found him tumbled from his nest, and I got him and I brought him over the sea on a day like this. It was a very hot day, one of those balmy, windless summer days when the air shimmers up without any breeze. And I got him to the island there just opposite the seal rocks, and his irises were contracting and expanding. Crazy dandelion eyes he had, were yellow, and he just took off. And I had him on a little bootlace, but I didn't realize he was going to jump, and I missed him. And he flew with raggedy wings because he was only young, like an old crow in a storm, and fell into the water. I thought, my God, I've lost him already. And I rowed quickly, and I had to be careful not to knock him down. And I picked him up, and he just as if nothing had happened, he shook his little feathers, rattled them all, and then as we came up the croft, up the hill, he looked at everything as if to pinpoint where he was. It's very strange. I fell in love with him immediately because he was only a little tiny thing, about 11 inches tall at that time, and he wouldn't do anything he didn't want to do. His will was inflexible. I loved him because in his beauty, his sort of intractable nature, and his natural courage. He epitomized for me what it takes to be really free. Fear wasn't in his makeup. It only aroused his natural resistance. And against a more powerful force of being, he'd rather die than give in. He was not equipped for compromise, and to me he symbolized what so many of us have lost. So I'll never forget him, you know. Never forget him. I used to go out fishing for mackerel, and if I had a good catch, I used to share them with the seals. I started to throw them bits of fish, and they got used to this. And one day I was going along, and one still didn't come off, a baby one. So I got onto the island and went towards it, and it had its flipper wedged in a crevice in the rock. So I grabbed his neck, and he tried to bite me, but it got very thick necks, and they can't turn around too far, and pushed him down and back, and let him go. He looked at me like that. Couldn't believe it. They're very expressive eyes they have. Big, dewy, soulful eyes. He looked at me like his little whiskers. Anyway, whoop, 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 like a little caterpillar, hunched himself down to the beach and joined in. And there's a jet black one there still today, and he still comes pretty close. That one we saw on the top of the rock there. And I like to think that's Sammy, the little seal. You get up on those hills and look out, and you're the only person in the world. You definitely get the impression sometimes everybody else has gone. And you say to yourself, well, I still want to be alive if everybody else was gone, even though I haven't seen anybody for maybe 3 or 4 months at a time. And I know I wouldn't. But I think as a writer, you are communicating, that you're just sitting here. I'm probably communicating better than I'm talking to somebody. There are lots of little disciplines that you have to cut. I think we're so spoilt by in our civilized cities with a surfeit of luxury, ease and comfort. We've got buttons to raise our car windows, buttons for hot air, buttons for cold air, elevators to go up. Television set takes care of our entertainment. Even the countryman isn't what he was. He's out on he's ploughing the fields, but he's sitting on a tractor. And his entertainment is taken care of by television. We all think the same things and see the same programs, bounce the same programs off satellites. It leads to a kind of similar thinking. I think people are revolting against all that somehow. A pal wrote to me once, he said, "You still out there dodging reality?" And I pictured him back in his London clubs and the dreary talk about who they'd met and what they were wearing and who'd cut them up on the road and what they'd said to the other driver. And I thought all those dreary days came back, and I thought, oh. He's picturing him at his desk writing what he doesn't believe in for magazines he doesn't really care about. His dreams of one novel on the shelf, and that's it. And hating his next door neighbor for slamming the car door or the dog barking, you know. I thought, I'm dodging reality. I lose my life just to get my shopping and all the natural things around me. I look out of the window sometimes, and once I woke up in the morning and a stag was looking in at me. And I've got that little one-legged chaffinch that comes around here now. He got hit by a hawk. Sometimes you don't get any letters. You know, these are where you have to employ these little disciplines. If you get any letters, you come back and you read the personal ones last. That's a little treat. You cook your supper, maybe have a glass of wine, and I wonder what she's saying, or he, whoever it's from. And then you open it, and there's only 3 lines. Nice to hear from you. I'm off to Spain. I'll write soon. God, don't leave me. I've waited to read this. There's nothing there. It'd be nice to have a woman here, a wife and everything. But I don't know what kind of woman could live this kind of life, really. Bernard Shaw said, if you can't get what you want, settle for what you can get. But I don't like that. That's a kind of compromise. To share this sort of life, a woman would have to be very fit and very cheerful, an optimistic kind of person. Attractive, but I wouldn't be able to love a totally unattractive person. And who loves the wilderness and wildlife for their own sakes. And who maybe likes gardening, because I hate it. And could adapt cordon bleu cooking to the wilderness. Maybe a half-qualified biologist or veterinary surgeon wouldn't be bad either. I'd quite like to share this place with a woman if I could find one that could take this kind of life and who I loved and loved me in return, just like anybody else. But I never found her, and I know I never will. Well, I haven't really lost hope completely. I think one day she might just walk out of that wood alone. These are blackberries from the brambles, which I grow like one would grow fruit normally. I stake them. These are mussels that I get from the sea. I go out twice in the summer to pick mussels. These are hazelnuts from the wild bushes here. I've got a whole bag full of those, but I didn't gather so many this year because a pair of red squirrels moved in. And I had to leave them some. I figured I could live without hazelnuts, but they couldn't. They were all that's left in my winter wines. I didn't make many this year because I was working on a book and I didn't have time. This is elderberry wine, and that is black currant that I grow in the
old ruined walls around here. The old ruins form a beautiful shelter for black currants and red currants. And this is lovely. So I had that at Christmas and I haven't drunk any since. But this isn't wine, that's the Wildcat's watering bottle. It's a long bottle because I don't like to get too close to it.
Just changing your bedding, son. Ah, pretty good. Not gonna hurt you. I got this wildcat from a zoo. This animal has been in captivity for 9 years, almost its entire life, and never for one fraction of a second has it showed the slightest liking towards human beings.
He's a good boy. He's a good old pretty goose. Wow, the pretty goose.
You rake that into your own satisfaction, son. I'll throw this rotten stuff away. There's a bit of bone here. Missed. You didn't get me that time, son. These are the two females. They are half wild. And yesterday, for the first time in 5 months, the female Patra was in the pen with him all day and all night. So I've got hopes that maybe she'll have kits in August. It hasn't been achieved often, the breeding of wildcats, if at all. To let him go after 9 years in captivity would be the most unkind thing a man could do to a cat like that. He's never seen a wild mouse or a moving creature, and it would be a case of born free to darn well die. I think I can live this life until I'm 65, I think so, and as I'm carted off suddenly. But I've got it all worked out. I'll go up the hill there and dig myself a wee grave and a big sheet of plywood, 8x4, and some ropes across the stakes. And I'll dig all the earth out onto the plywood, you see. Little cross at the other end. With the little pistol, I'll have to get a pistol. Just fall, crunch, hit the ropes. The plywood will tip up, the earth will fall on top of me. The end of the plywood will hit the cross, it'll slide down chunk. All neatly wrapped up. There's my books. If you don't want to read them, don't bother. I'm glad I wrote them, that's all. I'm not a hater of mankind, He's the highest species that ever evolved, and the future rests in his hands. But we must control our own excesses. We're only here for a brief wink of time. 70 years is nothing in nature. There were millions of years when man didn't exist, and there'll be millions of years when he's gone. And in the interim, nothing much has happened.